Richard Madden had always been a football fanatic. Growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, his life revolved around the game. He wasn't just a fan, he lived and breathed it. From the moment he could walk, he dreamed of one day running onto an NFL field, throwing a perfect pass, or making a game-winning touchdown. But life had other plans. At 18, Richard joined the military, hoping to make a difference and follow in the footsteps of his family's legacy of service. His love for football remained, but as the years went by, the dream of playing with an NFL team seemed to fade into the distance. The rigorous life of a soldier, the long deployments, and the exhausting training schedules left him with little time for anything else. Yet Richard's passion for the game never died. He would often watch NFL games with fellow soldiers, his eyes lighting up as he cheered for his favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. His one wish? To train with the pros, to step onto the field, and to experience what it was like to be part of that world. Unbeknownst to Richard, his story had caught the attention of someone much more powerful than he realized. It all started when a video of Richard's heartfelt confession about his NFL dream went viral. In the video, Richard explained how his ultimate fantasy was to meet and train with his favorite NFL team. He spoke about the sacrifices he had made for his country and how, despite his service, his dream of football felt like it was slipping further away. The video reached former President Donald Trump, who had a soft spot for stories of perseverance and passion. Upon hearing Richard's story, Trump decided it was time to make a real difference. This young man deserves more than just admiration, Trump thought. He deserves to live his dream. Trump personally reached out to Richard, and what followed was nothing short of extraordinary. "Richard," Trump said during a call, "I've seen your video, and I believe you've earned a moment that will change your life. We're going to make this happen. You're going to be on the field with the Eagles. You'll train with the team, get a taste of what it's like to be a part of the NFL, and we'll make sure it's everything you've ever imagined." Richard's jaw dropped. The phone call felt surreal. He had never expected anything like this. One of his heroes, someone who had been a larger-than-life figure in American politics, was about to turn his greatest dream into a reality. The day arrived. Richard was flown to Philadelphia, where the Eagles were preparing for their upcoming game. As he entered the locker room, the familiar sights and smells of the stadium made his heart race. The helmets, the jerseys, the weight of the footballs, everything felt like a dream. But then, the moment that would define his life arrived. He stepped out onto the field, standing beside some of the NFL's biggest stars. The crowd cheered, and Richard could hardly believe his eyes. There he was, not in the stands, but on the field, surrounded by the very players he had idolized. Trump appeared in a VIP box, waving down at Richard. "You're doing great, Richard," he called out. "This is what dreams are made of." Richard was introduced to the coaching staff, who welcomed him with open arms. They guided him through drills, taught him the finer points of professional football, and even let him throw a few passes. For Richard, it was as if time stood still. He was no longer just a fan. He was part of the team, even if it was just for a day. The Eagles' quarterback, Jalen Hurts, took him under his wing, offering advice and encouragement. "It takes more than talent to make it in this league," Jalen said, clapping Richard on the back. "It takes heart. You've got the heart, man." As Richard practiced with the team, he realized that this experience was more than just fulfilling a dream. It was a reminder that no matter where life took him, the things that truly mattered would always be worth pursuing. His military service had taught him discipline and resilience, and now his love for football had brought him face to face with the heroes he'd always admired. When the day ended, Richard was overwhelmed with emotion. Trump Jalen and the entire team had made his dream come true in a way he never thought possible. "I'll never forget this," Richard said, his voice thick with gratitude. "You've given me a memory that will last a lifetime." Trump smiled. "Sometimes, the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. You deserve this, Richard. And remember, the field will always be there for you, whether you're in the uniform or just watching from the stands." As Richard boarded his flight back to his military base, he realized something important. It wasn't just about playing in the NFL. It was about never giving up on your dreams, no matter where life took you. And for Richard Madden, that lesson would stay with him forever. And as the world learned about his incredible experience, they were reminded that sometimes even the most impossible dreams can come true, with a little help from unexpected places. The weeks following Richard's unforgettable day with the Eagles passed in a blur. Back at his military base, he found himself reflecting on the experience constantly. It had been so much more than just a day of training with his favorite team. It had reminded him of his own strength, resilience, and the importance of chasing after what truly made him happy, even if it seemed impossible. The video of Richard's day with the Eagles had gone viral, sparking admiration from fans across the country. People were moved not just by the gesture from Trump, but by Richard's unwavering passion and humility. He became a symbol of hope and perseverance to many, showing that even those who dedicate their lives to serving their country deserve a chance to pursue their dreams. One evening, as Richard was scrolling through his phone, he noticed a message from an unknown number. It was a text from an area code he didn't recognize. "Hey, Richard, Jalen Hurts here. I just wanted to reach out and say how much I admire your dedication. You really made an impression on all of us at practice that day. So, I have an idea. I think you deserve a real shot at trying out for the team. Not as a fan, but as a player." Richard blinked in disbelief. The text went on. "I know you're still in the military, but we can make it work. If you're interested, we'd love for you to come out to a few training sessions and see if you have what it takes. No pressure, just an opportunity to see what could be." Richard's hands trembled as he read the message. He couldn't believe it. Jalen Hurts, one of the NFL's brightest stars, was offering him a real chance to try out for the team. But there was a catch. He was still in the military. Could he balance his service with a dream so far out of reach? He didn't know what to do. The training schedule, the responsibilities of being a soldier, it all seemed impossible to juggle with an NFL tryout. But something inside him, something deep down, told him he had to at least try. A few days later, Richard called his commanding officer and explained the situation. He had never been one to ask for special treatment, but this was different. He explained how this chance was something he couldn't pass up. After a long conversation, his commander gave him the approval to take a short leave of absence. Richard packed his bags and headed to Philadelphia once again, this time with a mission: to prove to himself that he could do it. When he arrived at the Eagles training facility, he was greeted by Jalen and the team. The atmosphere was electric, but there was a sense of respect in the air. Everyone knew this wasn't just a publicity stunt. This was Richard Madden's second chance. Jalen pulled Richard aside and gave him a few tips. "I know it's been a while since you've played, but you've got this. You just need to stay focused and trust your instincts." With that, Richard suited up once again, the familiar weight of the pads and helmet reminding him of the game he had loved his whole life. As he stepped onto the practice field, he could feel the eyes of the team on him, watching, waiting. But this time, there was no fear, only excitement, and something more, an undeniable sense that he belonged here. The drills were grueling. Running routes, catching passes, sprinting and blocking. Everything felt like a test. But Richard didn't back down. He pushed himself, remembering the days in the military when he had been taught to never give up, to always fight for what he believed in. At the end of the day, Jalen and the coaches huddled together, discussing Richard's performance. Richard stood off to the side, his breath heavy, his muscles sore, but his spirit soaring. Finally, Jalen walked over to him with a smile. "You did good, Richard. Really good. We'll need a few more days to see how you fit, but I think you've got something special. I don't know what the future holds, but you've shown us what it means to never stop fighting for your dreams." Richard's heart swelled with pride. He hadn't made the team yet, but he had made it this far, and that was enough. No matter what happened, he knew he had proved something to himself, that dreams weren't just for the lucky few. They were for those willing to chase them, no matter the obstacles. Over the next few months, Richard continued to balance his military duties with the intense training sessions with the Eagles. It wasn't easy, and there were moments of doubt, but each time he thought about giving up, he reminded himself of the day Trump had made his dream come true. That one act of kindness had opened a door, and he wasn't about to walk away from it. Then, one morning, Richard received the call. It was from the Eagles' coach. "Richard," the coach said, his voice steady but filled with excitement, "we've been watching you, and after a lot of consideration, we want to offer you a spot on the practice squad. We think you've got what it takes." Richard's world seemed to stop for a moment. He had made it. He was officially part of the team. When he called his family to tell them the news, his voice cracked with emotion. "I did it. I'm on the practice squad. I'm going to be part of the Philadelphia Eagles." The realization hit him all at once. His dream wasn't just something that had happened to him. It was something he had earned. Through hard work, determination, and the belief that no dream was too big, Richard Madden had defied the odds. And as he walked into the locker room for the first time as a member of the Eagles, he knew one thing for certain. The journey wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. As Richard stepped into the locker room, the smell of fresh turf and sweat filled his nostrils. It was a familiar scent, one that had always made him feel at home. But this time, it was different. This time, it wasn't just the dream of a fan. It was his reality. He looked around, taking in the sight of his teammates, some who had been in the league for years, others just starting their own journeys. They were all there for the same reason: to be the best, to chase greatness. And now, Richard was one of them. As he sat at his locker, pulling on his cleats, he couldn't help but think back to that moment when he'd stood in front of Trump, speechless with gratitude. He thought about how, at the time, it felt like a dream that could never come true. But now, that dream was his life. He thought about all the sacrifices he had made, the long hours in the gym, the time away from his family, the years spent serving in the military. Every moment had led to this one. And for the first time in his life, Richard felt a deep sense of peace. He had not only earned his place here, he had fought for it. Later that evening, after practice, Richard found himself alone on the field, the lights shining brightly above him. He stood at the 50-yard line, looking out at the empty stands. It was quiet now, but in his mind, he could still hear the roar of the crowd. He could still feel the energy, the adrenaline of the game. As he took a deep breath, Richard thought about how many times he'd almost given up on this dream. How many times he'd questioned whether he was meant for something greater than just a soldier. But here he was. He had proven to himself and to the world that no matter what life throws at you, no matter how impossible the dream may seem, it's never too late to chase it. And then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from his mother. "You did it, Richard. I'm so proud of you. You've always had the heart of a warrior. Keep going. The world is yours." He smiled, tears welling up in his eyes. In that moment, Richard knew that his journey wasn't just about football. It was about showing the world that anything was possible if you never stopped believing in yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real victory. For all the people watching this story unfold, whether you're a dreamer, a fighter, or someone who's been told no too many times, know this: you are capable of more than you think. The road may be long, and it may be filled with obstacles, but as long as you keep moving forward, the dream is never out of reach. Richard's story is just one example, but it's proof that with faith, perseverance, and a little bit of kindness from unexpected places, we can all make the impossible happen. So, what's your dream? And what will you do to make it come true? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your story. Keep chasing, keep believing. Your moment is out there, waiting for you to claim it.